Hi everyone, welcome back to Uncensored. I'm Marianne from Yachts Mermaids, and today I have Sara from the Crew Glue. She's a co-founder, and welcome, Sara. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here, thank you.
So I was talking to Sara before recording now, and we were talking about the pain point of what got her to co-create Crew Glue. And by the way, those who don't know what Crew Glue is, it's basically a tool, almost, I would say. It's a tool, obviously by Sara and Chris. Chris is the other
Christian, yes, Christian, that's right, yes.
So they're at service to us in the yachting industry to create team building and create a safer and what's the other adjective that you would say for the environment that you're creating in yachts, Sara?
So Crew Glue is all about providing crew with the levels of support that all other industries have been used to having forever, to help us to develop crew teams that are able to deliver safety and service at the highest level with an unbroken service chain. And that's all about communication. And there is a common misconception that team building is the same as team bonding. And actually they're very different. Team bonding is going to the karaoke, getting drunk together, having a dinner. That's team bonding. Team building is a systematic approach to expediting the process that teams go through naturally, the development stages to the level of high performance that we're all trying to achieve.
I'm glad you said that because that's what we mainly do on boats. We do team bonding. We don't really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about the pain point that got you and Christian, sorry, I keep calling him Chris for some reason, to say, okay, we really need to bring this to yachts. Yeah.
We have a friend in the yachting industry, and he came home from a boat that he'd been working on, and half of the crew had left overnight because of a toxic relationship within the senior level of that vessel. So the trust was gone. People were afraid to challenge and push back, and there were genuine concerns about the safety of the crew, of the guests, and of the vessel as a result. When I heard that story, having come from a background of team building and leadership development with 20 years experience, I thought, gosh, yachting crew really need to have access to the strategies and the techniques that will enable them to develop a trusting crew relationship that allows them to enter into healthy conflict and to challenge and to push back when something happens that they disagree with. And I know that in yachting, hierarchy and the number of stripes on your shoulder matters a lot, and that's a big deal. And of course, in most modern businesses, that's been smashed. We don't do that now. We collaborate, we work together to ensure that things are achieved when they need to be achieved. And we encourage people to challenge and push back and question something they disagree with in a healthy way and in a professional way. So I think that the winds of change are certainly blowing for yachting, and that we find ourselves entering the industry at that time, just as change is starting to happen. But there's still a long way to go.
Well, I mean, it's happening, and I'm glad that you have decided to enter the industry with this tool, to be of service to us, because we really, really, it's necessary, it's essential, it's crucial. We tend to think that, yachting is all about working as a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's
more so than anywhere else.
Successful. And a lot of people think of, oh yeah, we're working as a team because maybe, I don't know, I need this S key to be moved here, and somebody picks it up and does it. And yes, that's great. That's teamwork, awesome. But then what you talked about, conflict, where I'm maybe not able to speak up my mind because maybe I'm in the laundry, I'm a laundry girl. I'm new. I'm a green stew. And I feel what do you call, fearful, because that's really what
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
fear of speaking up, of saying what you feel, because they may not be okay with it, because you may lose your job, even if
Mm-hmm.
that may not be true, although in some circumstances that may be true. And I think this is where people like you are so important to help us understand how to create that healthy conflict among ourselves. So,
Yeah.
what is the number one thing that you have found when you come on board to work with, crew,
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of like the repetitive pattern among all
Mm.
crew that you go to work with, uh, from the toxic point,
Mm-hmm.
right?
There are a couple of things. One of them is cliques, these cliques that form on board, even in small crew, and the sort of us and them syndrome. So I think that it often feels as if there are pockets of people who are in each other's gangs. And sometimes people will be in two gangs. They'll be in two gangs and they'll play one off against the other. And there's also some ego that can get in the way. So, and and that becomes about having a personal agenda and not thinking as a team, but thinking as a load of separate individuals who all have their own agendas, and this sort of fighting for position. And I think a lot of that's about the hierarchy and how hung up we can get on things like a job title: first stew, second stew, chief stew, that sort of bosun, first mates, all of that stuff. It gets in the way of just working really well together, which will ultimately benefit everyone and see everybody achieve more and everybody be more successful. So I don't know whether it's cultural, whether it's historic, I don't know where it starts from. Maybe you would know. You've got years in the industry, but that's what I see when I get on board.
When you're talking, I feel like I'm hearing politics, because literally what I feel is that, when we get, like, there's no vision of the bigger scope.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, okay, I'm here to make this amount of money, I'm the chief stew, this is how long I need to go for.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my ego comes in, so I'm like, don't talk to me, you're under me, that kind of thing. But people tend to, and that goes with any head of department, and there's no global perspective and mission into what are we all doing together here.
Mm.
What is the bigger mission beyond the obvious, which is, yes, you're here to make money, yes, you're here to serve people, but what is
Yeah.
it? And I think when there's like no north,
Mm-hmm.
and when there's no north, then everything just crumbles, and
Mm.
I think sometimes the clicks that you talk about definitely could be a cultural thing. Like, if there's a lot of certain amount of country people from one country, they tend to click together,
Yeah.
if it's
We are tribal. We're tribal by nature. We can't help that. And I guess what we really try to do with Crew Glue is bring these tribes together to become one tribe. So
yes.
that's the deal. Rather than having, you've got these pockets, just let's be one tribe. That's when we become truly successful and happier as well. I think that's important. It's a
So
much nicer environment.
how does this work? Like, to create, let's say there's already a toxic environment on board, um,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to shift that. Can that be
Mm.
created within like one session with you guys? Is this something that you give us homework and then we have to like continue to build upon? Like, how does that work?
Mm.
And what type of mentality is needed in order to open up to have this experience? Because a lot of times people bring this, people like you guys on board, and everybody's just like, oh, really? We have to do this bullshit? And it's like,
It's so true.
so what
Yeah, that
do you think
that's really
that-
true. That's very funny. So when we go on board, we'll usually find that, to be honest, I would say 3/4 of the crew are really happy that we're there and they're looking forward to it. There's always at least one, if not several, kind of types in the, and that's my personal challenge. They're my favorite people. They're the people I'm most determined to work on and to turn around, because this is not mumbo jumbo and fluff. This is stuff that the most high performing teams in the world, the F1 pit lane crew, the J-class yacht crew, the most incredible teams in the world use the principles of team building to reach their success point. And so to raise your eyes and go, ugh, is short-sighted, and it's sort of dismissing years and years and years of research into team development. But that's okay, and it always just makes me laugh. It's water off a duck's back. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I don't pay much attention. But what I tend to do is, so the first thing I think in response to your question is, the ideal scenario is that we go on board before it all starts to fall apart. And that's the best way to get the team ready and to help them to get through the stages of team development to a place where they are performing as a team with one shared goal and mission. That's the ideal scenario. And preferably the whole crew, including the engineers who like to hide below the deck, and including the captain who likes to stay on the bridge. Everybody, no one person is not part of that team or that crew. So that's the ideal. That doesn't always work though, and sometimes we're brought in when things have already started to go wrong or have already gone quite horribly wrong. That takes longer and it's much more complicated. And we'll usually start with a session or two with the whole crew, but then we'll also need to work with the leaders of the crew to sustain that improved team communication. And we need buy-in for that. And honestly, when I see the people, that if I see that somebody's really not bought in, that they don't want to be part of that process, I have to question whether they want to be there at all. Mm-hmm. And that's not my place to say, but you just kind of think, do you want this to be better, or do you just want to continue this toxicity? And if so, what's in it for you? Now, on those occasions, I'll often use a coaching approach and do one-to-one work with that person, because what we will often discover is that there's something underlying that behavior which isn't making them happy, that's making them unhappy, and that's the thing that needs to be fixed for them to be able to move forward. So it's a layered approach, whole crew, leadership team, individual coaching as required, if they're prepared and open to that idea. It can always be improved, fixed, made better, mm-hmm. to various degrees, depending on how likely people are to how much they want it. It boils down to how much do you want it. And if they've brought us on board, I hope that the majority of them want it. And then in the end, if most of the crew are moving in a positive forward direction to improve things, the others just have to get on the bus, and move forward with the rest of the crew.
I'm wondering, as you're talking, you brought in the whole thing of like Formula One teams and all these, super high performance team. And obviously this team, they understand this because they have the North, they had the vision that if we don't do this together, we are not going to have a job, period. All of us.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's the bigger picture, isn't it?
Exactly. But in yachting, it seems to me like whether you have that team building or or not, it doesn't really affect your job in the sense of like, if you're not a successful charter vessel, you're still probably going to have a job. You could be a shitty charter vessel and you will probably more than likely still get clients. They may not come back to you, and I don't believe that's a successful charter vessel. But for people, they think, oh, we still get clients. Who cares? Like, we're successful, I think that a successful charter vessel is a repeated client. That's what shows that you're successful. But, and I feel that because there's no real consequences to not really working as a team and doing that building, people tend to think, oh, we don't need this. Like we're getting just, we're getting by. Like it's fine, like I'm getting my
Yeah.
money, you're getting your money. So shut up and just go, and if you don't like it, there's the door. And I
Yeah.
feel that this is like a really big misconception. That's, that this is why a lot of boats are not yet maybe looking into bringing somebody like yourself on board, because they may not feel that is really necessary, because yes, it may help, but we're still getting our money. Who cares? And I just kind of wonder, because the one thing that I think that will really that people may start to think about this, bringing this on board, it's the crew turnover. Because I think this is the real pain point of what happens if you don't do team building. You will continue to turn over crew, and you're never gonna have like that solid flow and harmony that you would like to have on board, work-wise. Because every time you have to, like every 3 weeks, you have to teach people new things, and you have to like deal with new personalities, and just like it's a constant battle almost. Like you're just like in constant like survival mode almost. And yeah, I don't know. That just kind of came up for me. So what's coming up for you when I say?
You're absolutely right. And the example I gave at the beginning of the pain point with the friend of ours who for whom half the crew left, and they were on a big boat. They had charter guests on that boat, and half the crew left. They got off and they left. And that was a huge, huge expense. It was a huge inconvenience. It was detrimental to the service that their guests got, those that were left on the boat. It meant extra stress and extra pressure for the remaining crew, huge headache for the captain, masses of expense for the yacht management company in the finding of and the replacing of the crew. Then the crew came on and they needed uniform, and they had to be shown how to do things and trained and embedded into the crew. And every time that happens, you take your team, which has developed through the stages, and you take it straight back to naught again. And it has to rebuild again from scratch. So it's like you climb up the hill and you slide down the hill, and you climb up the hill and you slide down the hill. And that is not good for anybody. And even if you're still getting your wages and you're still getting your tips, and who cares? It's a pretty miserable existence. Wouldn't you rather be on a boat where you're all working well together, you're able to have an argument? It's, for me, Marion, it's like a family, literally. In my family, I'm just trying to add them all up now. I've got 4 sisters and 1 brother, so 6 of us. And we argue and shout at each other, and then 5 minutes later, we're fine again. And we care about each other, and we love one another. And that's what it feels like for me when a team is really, really, really well set together, is that you can have a bad day and you can have a bit of a meltdown, and those people around you'll just say, do you need to go and have a little lie down? Do you just want to go and cool off a little bit? But nobody holds a grudge, because it's not about that, because ultimately you all are working together towards the same aim. And that should be, for most people, and certainly for me, when I think about what work is for me, about earning my living whilst doing something I really enjoy, having amazing experiences, seeing beautiful places, meeting wonderful people, all of that stuff. And I don't want that to be marred by conflict, which is unhealthy, by backbiting and moaning and bitching and negativity. It's exhausting, and it's not good for our emotional well-being either. And we know that emotional well-being and mental health is huge issue, and that if we set things up right in the first place, we mitigate some of that risk, and we give people a far better chance of having the best possible time while they're on the boat, if they're not career yachties, and having a better chance of success and moving up through the ranks if they are career yachties. So it works for all comers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when, the expenses that come from crew turnover is absolutely ridiculous. And you pretty much name them very well, of all the ones that do happen in an obvious sense. And I think that, as captains for sure, you know, part of your job is to, look after the asset of the owner. And that also means monetarily, right?
Mm.
I think that if you pride yourself of being that type of person, then you have to, it's essential, it's crucial to bring somebody like a company like you guys, like the Crew Glue, to make sure that that part of the crew turnover, that part of the asset that is the crew, it is looked after, so
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
actually do you actually take action on what you're priding yourself about, because right now I've been on a vessel, and it's a new vessel, it's a new program. So obviously we understand that finding the right fit, it takes time. But I just hope, I'm going to bring, your company up, because I really hope that once they feel like, okay, we got people that we think could potentially stay for longer. Okay, then let's really build a strong relationship crew wise, so they can actually maintain it.
Yeah.
Because I think that is, I can see it daily when I'm there. I'm like, everybody's just like separate. Nobody's really understanding, okay, like this is the goal, this is what we're working forward. Like, this is how we need to come together. It's not just the simple duties of like, make sure your laundry is in the laundry room so I can make it so you can have laundry tomorrow, uniform tomorrow, which is like little things, but bigger than that. Like, how are we interacting? Like, are we bringing the because like I've seen it in this crew, like one person, especially head of department, starts going sour, everything gets infected, everything. And everybody just goes like, bruh. I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, get your head out of your ass, like, remember why you're here. Like,
Yeah.
And like, to the head of department, I'm like, you are leading. You like, whatever comes out of your mouth has a big impact, whether you believe it or not. Like, people look after you, so up to them. So my question to you is now, because of all this coronavirus shenanigans, are we able to do this online with you?
Yes, Marion, wonderful
Amazing.
news. Actually, over the last couple of days, I have been working on our Crew Glue session going virtual. One of the things that is true of me is that I am massively creative. And I have my own profile is all about creation and creativity and innovation and flexing and pivoting and all that kind of stuff. So that's really good news for me at the moment, because I've had to do a lot of it. And since we went into lockdown, I have delivered hundreds upon hundreds of online training courses of various different sorts. And so we have been working on making Crew Glue virtual. It's never quite the same, because we share human energy when we're in a room together or on board together or in a space together, but it does give people the same tools and same strategies as we would be. And we've had to adapt some of the way that we do some of the stuff that we teach and the way that we teach it, for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to say that we'll be launching these virtual sessions in the next couple of weeks, actually. And I'm looking forward to sort of starting to roll them out from my Zoom room, which I am in right now.
Amazing. So I have a few questions before we wrap it up. One is like, who should be in charge of bringing this up, like, to the crew, to say like, hey, I think we need team building. Like, who should be the one saying that? Or yeah.
Well, I think anybody. I think anybody.
It may not be the captain that says it.
No, of course not. We do know what we've spoken to all sorts of people. We've spoken often. We'll speak to the chief stew or the purser or the bosun or the first mate. It's not always the captain, but it often is the captain. There are some amazingly sort of progressive captains out there who see that this is a need and a necessity. Some of our captains that we've worked with are astonishing, and they know that so it's really interesting, actually. There are some captains who make a real effort to do the team building themselves, and yet they don't have time for that. You know, these guys they're the captain, for goodness sake. They've got more important things to be worrying about. So why not just hand that over, let the experts do that stuff, let him or her carry on being the expert at captaining, and let us do the team building stuff. And it also means that the captain, the first officer, the senior, the purser, the interior manager can also enjoy the process without having to try and run it themselves. So anybody should be able to bring it up. And I guess it depends on the construct of the crew on the particular vessel, whether you go to your purser or to your captain or to your interior manager, or who looks after this stuff, whether they go to their yacht management company, because sometimes the yacht management companies book us and bring us on board. And sometimes the boat will do it independently. I've even had captains pay out of their own pocket to have us come on board and do these sessions, because they've seen that it's something that would be nice for the team, that their team could learn from. And they've done it as a sort of almost, I think they've expected it to be more of a team bonding exercise where you all just, I don't know, glue things together and have a laugh, and then come out of the other end of it and said, wow, that was much more than I ever expected it was going to be. So, we always build a program specifically for the boat, the size of the crew, you know, whether they've been together for a long time or whether they're new. So everything that we deliver is tailored to the crew that we're going to be working with specifically.
Yeah, no cookie cutter.
We always do.
Awesome.
No. Obviously, there is a number. We've got a load of stuff that we know works, but it's the way that we put it together for that particular crew that will always be tailored so that it meets their needs specifically.
I know that on your website you said that the crew glue helps in giving everyone the opportunity to be heard and to agree on how to live and work together.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. How does that work out? How does crew glue invites us or makes it a reality, right? Like a real tangible thing where I will be able to feel safe where I work. I'll be able to know that I'll be heard when I want to speak up, you know, not whining, but really wanting to say something that's on my mind or whatever that may be. So how do you guys bring that to the table?
At the conclusion of our events, we do team charters, which you'll all be familiar with. Team charters aren't new, but we create a team charter that's entirely bespoke for that particular crew. So they make it, we just facilitate. We facilitate the session, they make their own charter, they agree the rules for living and working together. And there aren't many boats that have got an HR department, you know, like human resources department, but there's always at least one person who is just naturally good at that stuff. So we'll also often allocate roles. So we'll have this person who's in charge of keeping crew glue alive on board, and this person who you can go to if you're concerned about something and you don't know who to turn to, and this person who, you know, and so we allocate and agree those roles in the crew together. And it's usually not the captain, because the captain should always be the last resort, I suppose, when something, but often we'll find that a member of the interior crew and a member of the deck crew will take on the role of champion of a particular cause or a particular thing, and that's a really effective way of keeping what we do together in the sessions alive after we've left the boat, but also of giving people access to that. There has to be more than one, though, because if there's a fractious relationship, then the person who the two people who have a fractious relationship, that they can't be, it doesn't necessarily work. If so, for example, let's say the chief stew says, I'm going to take care of all HR issues. Anybody's got anything that they're worried about, come to me and I will look after you, except for you because I don't like you very much. That's not going to work.
Right.
So there has to be another person that you know, the person that they don't get along with quite so well can go to
or
if they need to.
The person that's
Yeah, exactly. Because you know what? the reality is it's very simple. When we finished spending time with a crew, we don't walk off that boat leaving behind us a load of BFFs, like everybody's best friends forever now. Oh, isn't it wonderful? Unicorns and rainbows. We walk off the boat with people going, okay, that's given me something to think about. I'm really going to have to think about the way that my behavior is interpreted by other people if I want to have a happier time on this boat. And we do follow-ups, as you would expect, as any responsible training or team building company would. And we'll often check in afterwards and people will have questions. They'll say, I hadn't thought about this until now, but what do I do if this happens? Or even though we agreed we were going to do this, it hasn't worked and this has happened. What do we do next? So we are still keeping in touch with the crew while they get used to this new way of being together. It's not just, hey, everybody, we're here for a day and then we're going to leave you and you can just get on with it. Right. We have to be there in a more sustained fashion, especially if there have been fractures in that crew and they're healing.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Gluing them back together.
Yes. So how can those who are interested in bringing this amazing service on board, and how can they get you how can we work with you?
Just send us an email, ahoy@crewglue.com, or contact us via direct messenger on Facebook or on Insta. We're on both of those. Just drop us a line and we'll be very happy to talk you through the process and what it looks like and how to make it work. We do, a bit of discovery first of all. What's happening for you and your crew? Are you new or are you having some problems? Tell us about it. Then we design and deliver for them.
Amazing. So all the links and everything's under this video. So just go ahead and get in touch with Sara and Christian.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, got it right. Yes. I was like Christopher. I was like, so to wrap it up, what is your advice for those who are kind of like, this sounds like it could be really good to bring on board, but I don't know if I can be bothered with it. Is it really going to make that big of a difference?
My advice is ask yourself how much it matters to you and whether or not you're really happy with the way things are. I've always believed that if it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it. So if everything's perfect and you're happy and you think everybody's getting on just fine and that you're hugely successful and there's nothing wrong with anything that's going on your vessel, and that it never ever will be, then fine, you don't need us. But if you're a new crew and you'd really like to avoid getting into that situation where you have cliques and conflict that is not healthy, where toxicity starts to play a part, then you might want to think about putting something in place which prevents that from happening in the first place. If you're a crew that has some fractures, just some little cracks starting to form, get the glue in as quickly as you can, because otherwise you're going to fall apart. And if you've already fallen apart, don't worry, we can still stick you back together.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all your wisdom and really for, seeing that pain through a friend and being able to say, you know what, we have nothing to do with yachting, but we have everything that they need in order to be successful. So why not, be at service to that industry? So thank you so much, because we really need this. It's essential, it's crucial. So, for all of you guys out there that like Formula One, this is how they become the top teams of the world.
That's exactly right.
That's from the inside out. So if you want to achieve that, then get the Crew Glue. They'll help you out with it. So thank you so much, Sara.
Such a pleasure.
That's a wrap. Until next time, people. And if you have anything to share, wisdom to pass on, and you want to be part of the Uncensored show, just click on the link below and drop me a line, and then we can get you sorted and sharing. There's a little live somewhere. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.